Welcome back to the Landry Hat podcast powered by FanSided. I am your host, Zach. You can listen to the Landry Hat wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching this here on YouTube, please make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode this Cowboys off season, because we are at that point, Foots. We were just talking about that a second ago before we started the show. We're just like in this weird gray area with Cowboys fans and media, and like, what do we talk about? Because they've really extended this defensive coordinator search. Like every team has kind of been like that. No, not a lot of DCs have been hired, and coaches are still getting interviews and all this stuff. So we're like this weird part of the off season, not fully in draft yet, but not fully out of the season for other teams. So we have a pretty interesting show for all of you, though. We're going to be down at the Senior Bowl, weather permitting. Me and Foots.
Say a prayer for us, please.
Yeah. The snow on the East Coast apparently is going to be pretty heavy. Hopefully it'll be gone and we can get down to Mobile. But Foots, before we get started talking about the search and the Senior Bowl, how are you doing?
Zach, I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to roll. Like you said, everybody watching this, say a prayer for me and Zach. All right. Got our credentials. We're big time. No, we're not really big time. But I will say we are excited to get down to the Senior Bowl, the names, and we're going to give you guys a thorough breakdown on a lot of these guys. Can't wait, bro. Cannot wait. So hopefully we can get down there, no issues. I think that the snow will be done. We fly out on Tuesday. The snow should be done on the East Coast, and where you are, Zach, by Monday morning, Sunday. And I'm just hoping that we can get out there safely, and we will. God says the same.
Yeah, because we've been talking about the Senior Bowl since like September, October. Like, you have to get started early, and that's just how it is with the draft. Like, it took me 2 or 3 years to realize that when doing content is if you really want to be in draft talk and really know what's going on, like the draft's in April. So you have February, March, and at the end of April, the draft is here. So we always get started early. And the Senior Bowl is a really good, like, getting to that point, because I've already started watching players. We have the Senior Bowl rosters, and we're actually going to go over a couple of names, but I'm starting to watch guys just so I'm familiar with their game. And I'm not just seeing them for the very first time on the field, kind of have an idea of the player. I'm not taking too much into account or not enough and doing all this. So with that said, Foots, we're going to get down there to Mobile, and we're going to watch a couple of guys. I think we can just go back and forth. I'll ask you, we'll start with you. Who is a name that you're going to be watching, looking for when we're down there in Mobile that relates to the Cowboys and who they could possibly draft?
Oof. Well, let's start with the first round, Zach, and then we'll kind of get to like maybe some fourth round names, some guys that could slip. But I'll start with pick 20 for me, Zach, and then we can maybe work to pick 12. Akeem Mesidor, right? Like, if you look at these names and what he did in the college football playoff, not just, versus Indiana. I mean, you go watch all the tape. It was really, really good. He's screaming off the edge. I think that he's really mature versus the run. And that's where I now start to have these, okay, I can get with this, because me and you talked about this before the show. It's like, you don't want to have to draft a player who you have to imagine things with. Now, the question about Mesidor is, the age, he'll be 25, right? And the foot and the injuries and the injury history. But, man, you watch this guy play, Zach. He has it all. There was a lot of discourse back and forth. Was he better than Bane? It's close. I'd probably still lean Bane, especially like when you just talk about the sheer power. Like, I mean, in that game, and Bane, by the way, is going to the Senior Bowl. He announced today. That game, Zach, and watching Ruben Bane and Mesidor really wreck the game versus Fernando Mendoza in Indiana, and now they're coming to compete. Man, sign me up for these guys. They could have easily, we know we're slotted. Nope. We want to go play football. So number one for me, Zach, I'm going to go Akeem Mesidor, defensive end, Miami.
Yeah, I like that name a lot, and that is a guy that's starting to get more buzz because of the college football playoffs. That can do wonders, especially when a guy plays as well as he did. If we're going to stick at pick 20 and talk about guys that were probably in that range, I really like Caleb Banks, the defensive tackle from Florida. And I think that's
Yeah.
what we're going to find out from really this Senior Bowl in general is there's a lot of defensive interior, a lot of defensive linemen that are really good players. And Banks is the exact same way. Went back, watched his 2024 film. He's another guy that had a foot injury, missed pretty much all of 2025. You go back and find his 2024 film, that is the best version of him. Another interesting one, like you said, with the injuries, like how much does that factor in? Him not playing pretty much an entire year. He played, I think, one game to start, broke his foot, and played the last two. In that film, he just didn't look like the same player from 2024. But I'm really excited to see him too. 6'6", 330 pounds, moves really good for a big guy. And just constantly getting into the backfield as a run defender and can rush the passer a little bit too. So I'm excited for Caleb Banks, Akeem Mesidor. And you want to stick with the defensive lineman, or do you have another name?
No, we can stick with the defensive lineman because I have another one, and that's Romello Height.
Yep.
So both Mesidor and Romello Height are both, and I have Mesidor rated a little bit higher than Height as I've gotten through the film, but both of these guys are Robins, right? But that's not to say that these guys can't come into the league in year one have a really big impact. I mean, you look at what Jared Verse was able to do, and Jared Verse was good at Florida State. I think he got better when he got to the league. They both have some of that crush rush to their bag, but they still have some bendability. And I think when this team does get their new defensive coordinator, I'm pretty sure we'll talk about the defensive coordinator search at some point, Zach. When this team does get their new defensive coordinator, like, what's the goal? Are we trying to get a field? Are we trying to play at the line of scrimmage? Romello Height is a good football player. Like, body is right there. It is built a certain way. Same with Mesidor. Like, there's no imagination. Even with guys at the top of the draft, you look at Bailey and you look at Arvell Reese, for example. Two guys that, what scheme are they? Are they 3-4 outside linebackers? Can they put their hands in the dirt and rush every rep? Everybody's going to point to Micah Parsons doing it, and Micah Parsons did it. And I would love to have both of these athletes. Arvell Reese isn't going to be at the Senior Bowl. David Bailey will, but they are known for getting the edge. Well, I tell people this time and time and again, you have to play on first and second down to even earn the right to get to third down and rush. And in the league, teams aren't just going to let you come up field and offensive coordinators not take advantage of that. You have to show that you could play with some type of stoutness. And I think you see Romello Height do that. And those will be the things that I'm looking for at the Senior Bowl. I'm not looking for the one-on-one reps are going to get all the views and the retweets on Twitter. And me and you will be posting them like it's nobody's business, and we'll be doing the standouts. But when we go back and watch the tape and they go team, we'll be looking at who's stacking, who's playing with hands in those tackles, chest, who's doing the things. And Romello Height is another name for me.
You just reminded me of something, and why I thought about this year watching the film before getting to the Senior Bowl. It's because I really liked Shamar Stewart when we got down there.
Yeah.
He probably looked like the best player on the field defensively, and then this year didn't do a whole lot. But
Yeah.
the Senior Bowl is a great. I like it because you get to see these guys against other NFL prospects. I was on the Senior Bowl's website, and it was like, I think 99% of the guys that went last year were either drafted or picked up as undrafted free agents, which is just insane to me.
Crazy hit rate.
Yeah, it is. And Quincy Riley, who we also really liked at the Senior Bowl last year, played a ton of snaps for the Saints and was actually really good this year. I'm going to stick on the defensive line as well. And TJ Parker, not a guy I've watched, but I got my watch list right here that I'm starting to check off names. But TJ Parker, the defensive tackle from Clemson, just looking at the raw numbers, 15.5% pass rush win rate, had 6 sacks, 24 hurries this year. It just adds to a really, really good defensive line room that we're going to see at the Senior Bowl. And then I'm interested with Ruben Bane because he's a guy that just played a full college football season, went all the way to the national championship, and then in a week and a half, he's going to turn around and go practice in this. Like, he doesn't have to. Like, this is a guy that people were talking about as being a top 3 player in this draft, a top 5 player. Like, he doesn't have to be out there. Same thing can be said for David Bailey. But that just tells you, and I think scouts are going to love that. Like, if he does get out there and he does practice, it'll be interesting to see how much. But to go through a full college football season and then be like, yeah, like I'll go. Like I don't have to compete. My agent probably doesn't love that I want to go, but he's going to be there practicing. So I think that says a lot. And I'm interested to see, one, how he performs and how much he does practice.
No, I completely agree. And to your point about TJ Parker, his 2024 tape, like, he was slotted as a top 5, top 10 pick in the whole Clemson program. I mean, really took a step back. And I'll just say this draft is loaded at defensive line, like you said, and is really loaded at corner and safety. And I can't wait to talk about some of these safeties' names. But yeah, with TJ Parker, bro, it is one of those things that teams do this thing in draft. Twitter does this thing where if a player has a down year, all of a sudden he's just not a good player. But I mean, him and Peter Woods on every draft board, 2026 board, whatever the case may have, you, Zach, top 5. Now, recency bias, Peter Woods can't play. And you have to be careful of that as a as a scout, because if you cover this thing, it can flip. Look at James Pierce. James Pierce, I'll never forget this, coming out, he didn't have the same year that he had 2 years ago at Tennessee. All he does at Atlanta, gets like 10+ sacks. I mean, there's a reason why Stefanski was like, oh, I'll run down there and coach those guys. And so to me, you have to really judge the full body of work, and great name with TJ Parker can ball, bro. He can play football. Cowboys fans won't like it because he didn't play great this year. And Clemson and Dabo, I don't know what they're doing out there. It wasn't great. But TJ Parker is a good football player, Zach, and it's going to show. We going down there and looking at it, mano a mano, you'll see who walks around a certain way, who carries himself a certain way, who goes through drills a certain way, who has the bag. And TJ Parker has the goods.
Yeah, he does. And another guy that I just watched, that I put on my watch list, moving to the outside, because we're watching a lot of defensive players. Like, for the last year, like, this was before Pickens was traded for and all that. We were watching the receivers like crazy. We were watching those one-on-ones, watching Tez Johnson just tear it up in the one-on-ones. But this year, it's really all defense. Like, that's what I've been watching. I've seen like 2 or 3 receivers at this point. And that's because they're going to be at the Senior Bowl. But I like Chandler Rivers from Duke. And I need to get to my player profile, that all the notes that I wrote down, but I wasn't expecting to like him as much as I did. But it's just, there's something about the way that he moves on film, just how fast he can close on stuff, how aggressive he can be. And sometimes that bites him. Like, you look at the numbers, they weren't magnificent, just the raw stats. He gave up 3 touchdowns last year. But when you go and watch the film, you notice that a lot of those are really contested. There was a throw that he gave up against, I can't remember, maybe it was Arizona State or something. Like, the receiver was just a little bit bigger than him. He was right there. Just a great play and great throw by the quarterback. Like, he gave up his numbers, and Duke isn't like some high profile school that's just known for putting out NFL talent like at corner. But the dude can play. And I think in the NFL, he'll be a really good slot corner, 5'10", 185 pounds. I just thought he was gliding all around the field, sticky in coverage, and a willing tackler in the run game. So I'm excited to see him, especially for Dallas. I have him in that day 2 range.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys don't have a pick right there right now, which kind of stinks when talking about some of these guys. But if the Cowboys could figure out how to get a 2nd or 3rd round pick, like, I really like Chandler Rivers, the corner from Duke.
I think you nailed him, bro. And I want to give you full kudos. You text me, hey, Foots, watch this Rivers. And I just put out my shameless plug. I just put out my cornerback rankings. And he didn't make my top 10, but he was the next in. And so where you have him in the 2nd round, 3rd round, I have him more as a 4th because of how deep this class is. Yeah. Let me just say this, guys. With the return of the nickel, and with the return, and well, not the return, but the rise of the nickel, Ted Wynn wrote a great article about how good defensive coordinators are coaching those guys up, and and playing more nickel to even big personnel groupings, depending on what teams are trying to do with their tight ends. If they're not going to use their tight ends as vicious blockers, then they're going to keep those nickels and those big safeties, whatever. They're going to use those guys. You see it with Nick Emenwari with Seattle. This is the draft, literally tailor-made for what Dallas needs, whether it's an off-ball safety, whether it's a strong safety. Zach, how much time you got? Because I can literally go through all of these names, but let me give you a name. And then I want another name for you, but I'm going to tell you right now, Zach, so I get so excited when I talk about these guys. Keontae Scott. I was going to go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, but let's go Keontae Scott. First of all, the names at the Senior Bowl, crazy, including late add D'Angelo Pons, who the 5'8" corner, if you're in the scouting community, draft community, the nerd football community, bro, what he did on the national stage, crazy. And I'm sure we'll talk about him. But I really, really love Keontae Scott from Miami. So if you guys want to watch him tape, I put it out on Twitter. I'm going through his games, and I'm looking at, Zach, we talk about the havoc plays, the impact plays. The only person in the secondary in the college football in our database who has more havoc plays than him is Caleb Downs. What do I do with that when he's maybe going to be 5'11", 5'10"? It says he's listed as 6 feet. He's not 6 feet. You can just tell by looking. He's not 6 feet. And Miami just plays him down and around by the line of scrimmage, and all he does is make tackles. All he does is play with grit. All he does is look like Brian Branch. Now, they don't play him on the roof as much, but there are reps in his film. Go watch the SMU tape. Go watch the pick six that he had in the playoff game. Go watch these things, Zach, and you'll say to yourself, bro, he has it. The SMU tape, obviously he had an SMU tape. I won't say obviously because I don't know if you guys watched the film or not, but I did. Bro, he had like 7 tackles. I'm like, this dude is everywhere. Then to end the game, he has a pass breakup. He breaks on a pass. Now, will taller receivers get him if he's boxed out? Yeah. Is he maybe a Jordan Lewis only? Maybe. But there's a role for that with the right defensive coordinator. Blitzer, best. He's going to come in and be the best on the team immediately. Just has a knack for getting home. Down and around by the box, guards and tackles won't be able to find him. They won't be able to get hands on him. They're just not going to be able to do it. Keontae Scott, I want to see how he competes. But if he competes anything like his tape, he's going to rise, bro, and I'm excited to see him. I don't think the Cowboys wouldn't take him at 20. He just doesn't meet the measurables. But we can at least talk about him, and I think that it's worth talking about.
That makes the Senior Bowl way more exciting too, because last year guys that stuck out to us at the Senior Bowl were the corners like Maxwell Hairston. He ends up going top 25. I can't remember where Buffalo took him. And they do, like, guys that are clear cut. Like when we watch out on the field, like you can see the difference in some of these guys. Like they just stand out above the rest. So the Cowboys needing a cornerback, like, yes, like you said, it's a really good cornerback class. I haven't watched Dalen Everett yet. That was actually one of the names that I would put on my list. But the Cowboys need a corner. Like it's really that simple. We've heard the names with Mansour Delane and Jermo McCoy and guys like that, and not having a second and third round pick, maybe some of these other names. Like that's why we would like Dallas to move back, because the value is going to be there because it's such a deep corner class. I'm excited about the cornerback room just because that is a spot that Dallas needs. They don't have a ton of guys that I think you can rely on going into 2026, like for sure. You have Revel. Bland's had 2 foot surgeries in 2 years. Diggs is gone, who also got cut by the Packers recently. Maybe they'll bring him back home. But they don't have a ton of cornerback names. And if they don't end up getting a corner in the first round, or they end up trading back and recouping a couple of second, third round picks, maybe even getting a fourth, like then some of these names that we're seeing at the Senior Bowl start making sense. And that way we've covered them, we talked about them, and people kind of know who they are and know their names. So staying on the defensive side of the ball, I mentioned it at the top of the show, but I wanted to talk about the Cowboys' current defensive coordinator search, because we've kind of hit this weird spot to where some of the guys they maybe want to interview more or like give a job to or still coaching could still go to the Super Bowl, kind of throws everything off because it's like at the beginning of the search, just boom, you hear all these names, they interview a bunch of people, and then it just stops. Everything
Yeah.
just completely stops. And that kind of feels like where we are right now. And you were telling me pre-show who you think it's going to be, the name that kind of makes the most sense, who's getting a lot of buzz. So I wanted to give the floor to you to kind of give your prediction, one, where the Cowboys are, and two, where they're going to end up and who you think the DC is going to be.
If I had to guess, I think it's going to be Christian Parker. Now, I could be wrong, Zach, but here's where I'm reading the tea leaves. If Denver goes to the Super Bowl, which that'd be a great coaching job by Sean Payton getting Jarrett Stidham to the Super Bowl, it's a few things that can happen, and you actually brought this up. Okay, if Vance Joseph moves on, which there's still a bunch of head coaching jobs available, like at least 3 I know that haven't even been coaches tied to these names. It's sounding like Jim Schwartz is possibly going to get elevated, so that may be one off the Richter. But the point is, if Schwartz gets a job, Leonard could go there, or he could take over the Denver spot.
Mhm.
Or it sounds like the Harbaughs are really interested in Leonard as well. He would possibly be my first option, but it looks like if I'm the Cowboys, after all the deep diving that I've done with Christian Parker, that's kind of where I would go. Now, I know they interviewed Durante Jones, and by the time you guys hear this, maybe he could be the defensive coordinator. But I think where the Cowboys are right now, listen, Shotty's doing a deep dive, and I love it. But now you're getting to that point where, like, whoever you want to call your defense probably needs to be looking at the Senior Bowl practice and looking at guys who fit the scheme that they want. Like, we talked about all of that. You don't want to miss any steps. You don't want to skip any steps. The pro side, the draft side, whoever's going to have this job needs to be there. I would like it to be Christian Parker with all the information. Jim Leonard or Christian Parker, but I think it's going to be Christian Parker. He's very detailed. You couldn't grow with him. Then my other point with Parker is, the thing is, some of these guys, if Leonard does a great job in 2 years, he's out. If Parker does a great job, he's still only be like 36, 37.
Mhm.
He probably won't get an opportunity to be a head coach. He's like 38, 39, and he makes this thing really roll for a while. And I think that's what you need to at least establish your philosophy and your mindset and who you want to be on defense and train up your next defensive coordinator. You can't do any worse than what you did last year, but it's now time to bring in somebody who builds a mentality around here. And I think that Parker could do that. And so I just think that he makes the most sense. And he's younger. He's still learning, but he's obviously well sought after. I mean, Green Bay, Jeff Halfley, I've heard ties to him because he was with Half. So you just gotta hope that nobody poaches him, because what you don't want to end up is with somebody you don't want.
Yeah, like they have 3 or 4 options, and then Jonathan Gannon is the only guy that doesn't have a job, and you're like, okay, well, he was our 4th option, but it's because Leonard picked this place and Christian Parker went here. Like, that, you don't want that to happen. And I think the playoffs make it like this odd thing to where, what if 3 or 4 coordinator jobs are waiting on Jim Leonard to be out of the playoffs, to talk to him? Okay, well then these other teams start hiring these guys, and next thing you know, it's 4 teams fighting over one guy, and 3 teams are going to be very disappointed and going with their 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th option. But Parker has been getting a lot of steam, and I think what you said really ties in perfectly to the Senior Bowl, because I think people forget how quickly the draft gets here in April. So they don't have a DC. You want your organization to run as a cohesive unit. You want your DC to be right there with player personnel and player acquisition and all of that. The draft is less than 100 days away. So let's say it goes on another week, another 2 weeks. Like, they just keeps putting you behind for starting to scout and evaluate talent, really figuring out what the DC wants, philosophy, and all that stuff. It's really important to keep those things cohesive. So waiting it can put you behind a little bit in the process. So I like Christian Parker as well. I would be honestly really excited with him being a younger guy. That was my one, like, I don't know, Like, I'm not really sure because he is young, like quite a bit younger. The Cowboys haven't hired a defensive coordinator under the age of 50 since 2011 when
Yeah.
it was Rob Ryan, and he was 49 years old. So, and then Matt Eberflus was 55, but Christian Parker, 34, like he's gonna bring the energy. He's gonna bring some newer ideas. Obviously, working with the Eagles, he helped develop Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. I was trying to find. I think he's had his interviews this year. I think it's been Green Bay and Dallas up to this point. But if you look, he really hasn't been in the league that long either. Like he's really started to like 2019,
Ascend.
2020 as a quality control coach. And then 2026, 6 years later, he's being talked about as a defensive coordinator. But I'm excited. Hopefully they will pick a name soon. And then maybe we can do a live show like together in person in Mobile if they give us some DC news.
I can't wait, Zach. It's gonna be fun, and I just hope that they make the right decision. I won't overreact to anybody, but this is big, bro, because you can't have another situation like last year. You have key players on your team, Dak Prescott getting older. You can't waste another great season that he has. So I'm excited.
I think Shoddy's tying this DC to himself. I think
Yeah.
that's why he's kind of being so diligent on what he's trying to do, because if this is bad, like, is Jerry going to fire another defensive coordinator to say, okay, you go pick yours again? Like, he's not going to keep doing that. He's going to be like, you pick this guy. We went through this whole process. Like, we got to figure out what's going on, because the Cowboys do like to give their coordinators, coaches, just staff in general chances over and over, keep them around. And I just think Shoddy knows that this is the guy that I'm going to tie the next 3 years of my contract to. If he's here and he's bad and we have 2 losing seasons in a row, then I'm probably out too. So he does have to make the right decision. And it's important for him as much as it is for the Cowboys and winning in the next couple of years. So that's going to do it for today. Talked about some guys, especially on the defense, that are going to be out at the Senior Bowl that we're excited to watch. And a little bit about the defensive coordinator search. We kind of hit a lull, but it'll just come up out of nowhere. They'll be like, they hired a DC, and then me and Foots, we will be here. We'll talk about it here on the Landry Hat. Make sure you guys are subscribed. You like this video, give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this at. You can find Foots at Foots the King on YouTube, and then my channel at Double Move here on YouTube as well. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you to FanSided again for the opportunity and for helping us out at the Senior Bowl. It's going to be a ton of fun. We just got to keep the snow away. That's all. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Peace.